Hello, fashion lovers. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. It's been a minute since I've shown my face around here, except for when I'm doing the project reveals. I wanted to pop in real quick and give you a brief rundown on what to expect in today's tutorial. I always kick off the summer season doing a couple men's shirt upcycles. I'm actually wearing the one I did in my last video. I decided to do a slightly similar version to show you another way in which to finish the neckline. So if you prefer a V-neck, this video is for you. Also, this version has a built-in peplum, which I think some of you may find easier than having to create ruffles from scratch. My hope is that with both tutorials, you can get creative and customize your very own style, which I would love to see. All that being said, let's jump right in. I'll be using this shirt to demonstrate. As you can see, it's quite roomy and the length stops below my hips. These are two things to look for when choosing a shirt for this project. First, we need to deconstruct the shirt. Using a seam ripper, remove any pockets your shirt may have and the collar as well. I prefer to unpick the collar so I can reuse the seam allowance to finish the back neck. Open up a couple inches of the shoulder seams to finish the neckline. I also remove the sleeves because I need to alter the armholes. You don't necessarily have to do this. Next, remove the button plackets. Cut as close to the button and the buttonholes as you can to save as much fabric as possible. With all that out of the way, we're going to work on finishing the center front and neckline. To create the V-neck, fold under the edge from the shoulder seam down, tapering it off as shown. Give it a quick press, then cut along the fold to remove the excess. You only need to do this on one half of the neckline, as we're going to use it as a guide to cut the other side so they are symmetrical. To cut the other side, match and pin them together. Cut starting from the hem to clean up the raw edges as well. Next, fold the raw edges under twice, a 1/4 inch, and pin them in place. Don't sew them up just yet. I almost forgot, but we need to shorten the bodice first to avoid cutting into the finished seams. I tried on the top to figure out how much I wanted to remove. I also used the opportunity to check the fit of the neckline, so I removed the pins and pressed the seams instead. I also temporarily pinned the front closed and the shoulders as well. If you're unsure of how much to take off, tie a piece of elastic or cord around your waist to help you visualize the length of the peplum. I chose to stop halfway between my waist and the hem. And while I had the bodice on, I marked where I wanted to shorten my shoulder seams. Once you've decided on the length, fold your shirt in half, laying it out nice and flat. I like to add pins to keep everything in place while cutting. Make sure to add a 1/2 inch below your marking for allowance. Now we can go ahead and sew up the center front seams. If you aren't making any alterations to the armholes, you can finish the hem as well by turning it under twice, a 1/4 inch, and sew. To finish the back of the neck, we're first going to remove the excess fabric, leaving a 1/2 inch for allowance. So I measured a 1/2 inch away from the neck, and from there I used my curved ruler to shape it. I did this on one side, then fold the neck in half to cut both sides together. Next, we're going to start by pinning the section we opened up at the shoulders. Then at the back neck, fold both sides inwards a 1/2 inch and pin. Continue doing this until you get to the other shoulder. When sewing, follow the pins starting in the shoulder seam, going along the edge of the neckline, and ending in the other shoulder seam to finish. I chose to alter the armholes, mainly to get rid of the drop shoulders, so that the shoulder seam is sitting on the edge of my shoulder bone. If you don't mind this look, you can get away with just taking in the armholes like you see here. To make the alterations, I opened up the side seams as well because I realized the original seams would have been difficult to work around. Using my French curve ruler, I shaped my new armhole starting from the shoulder marking to meet the side seam, where I took in roughly an inch, tapering it off into the hem. Now there's a trick to cutting out the armholes because I don't know if you notice, but the back part of the armhole comes out about a ½ inch more. So I'm going to do the same when cutting. To cut the other armhole, I fold the shirt in half to make sure both sides are symmetrical. Before sewing the sleeves back on, I shortened the length by cutting just above the sleeve plackets. I then opened up the side seams and gave it a quick press. To reattach the sleeves, I made a notch in the center of the sleeve and armhole to use as my starting point. From there, I pinned the rest of the sleeve on, then secured it in place. Next, sew the side seams closed from the hem to the end of the sleeves. Also finish the shirt hem if you haven't already. Now we're going to add elastic to the sleeve hem to finish. But first, we need to create a channel for the elastic. So fold the hem under 1/4 inch and again a ½ inch and pin. Sew the channel closed, leaving an opening to insert the elastic. Afterwards, grab your elastic with threader attached and feed it through the channel from the opening. I used roughly 12 inches of elastic for each sleeve. When you get back to the opening, overlap and sew the ends of the elastic together before closing up the channel. Moving on to the straps, grab the leftover shirt fabric, fold it in half, and cut as many 1-inch strips as you can get. If you don't have enough, you could always substitute with some other fabric. I got 6 strips from mine, but I ended up only needing 4. Quick tip to know for sure how much you'll need, measure the circumference of your shirt and add allowance. Cut 4 strips using your measurement. If you're also using leftover fabric, be sure to secure the seams that you've cut into. To prep the strips for the next step, I'm using a ½ inch bias tape maker to assist. I'll quickly go over how to use it. Feed the strip into the wide end and push the fabric out the other side. If done correctly, you should see the raw edges folded inwards. Pin the end to your mat or board, then pull the tape maker and iron as you go along. Do this for all 4 strips. To form the tie straps, fold 2 of the strips in half crosswise and sew them closed to create a channel. The other 2 strips we're going to attach to the waist. To complete the tie straps, cut 2 pieces of elastic, your waist measurement, minus 8 to 10 inches, and cut 4 straps approximately 20 inches in length. Take the elastic and add 2 straps on both ends by inserting it into the channels. This can be tricky, so I suggest using something like a seam ripper to help. Pin them in place once you've inserted about an inch of the elastic. Sew across the top to secure them, then set them aside for later. I went ahead and pinned the first strap on, just under the bust. Now I'm going to mark and pin the other row 1.5 inches away, which will be in line with my waist. When pinning on the strip, first fold the raw edge under roughly a ½ inch, then pin it to the edge of the center front. I didn't do that here and I had issues with the center front folding over, so try to go as close to the edge as you can. Continue pinning the strip, following the markings until you've reached the other side. When you get to the other side, leave the excess fabric intact in case you need it. Place a couple pins vertically a few inches away from the center front to use as a reminder to stop when sewing to turn under the raw edge like you did for the other side. Sew along the edges of the strips to finish the channels. I forgot to mention, but make sure the strips are aligned at the center front before sewing. For the final step, we're going to feed the straps through the channels. I'm using a loop turner for this. You can also feed them through using a safety pin, but what I did was feed the loop turner through the channel first, then attach the strap to the hook on the end before pulling it back out. To prevent the elastic from popping out of the channel, pull back on the elastic, stopping halfway across the front, then pin and sew it in place. Before sewing, do this on all sides of the straps, making sure the ties are all the same length. Lastly, make any necessary adjustments to even out the gathers. I am happy with the way this project turned out. I'm glad I went with the elastic strap combo because I love how it cinches the waist and gives me the option to adjust the fit. I know the V-neck might be too deep for some. You could remedy that by adding another tie strap. By the way, I'm wearing reusable nipple covers. I wear them all summer long instead of fussing with a bra and worry if it's showing. I'll link them below. That wraps it up for today's video. I hope you found this tutorial helpful in some way. If so, let me know in the comments below. Also, if this is the kind of content that you like to see and want to see more of, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, because I have more coming up that you don't want to miss. Stay stylish. Until next time.